الله حبيب الله رسول الله حبيب الله. Allah our God is the greatest, the one and only glory to Him. He wanted humans to be the best and give His best religion to them. Allah our God is the greatest, the one and only glory to Him. He wanted humans to be the best and give His best religion to them.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على نبيه ومصطفى وبعد. All praise is due to Allah alone. We all praise Him and we seek His help. Whomsoever Allah guides is the truly guided one, and whomsoever Allah leaves astray, none can show him guidance. May the best peace and blessings be upon Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. My dear viewers, welcome to another live edition of our program, Gardens of the Pious, and today's episode is number 410, and it will be the second in studying chapter number 180, Babu Fadli Qira'ati al-Quran, the excellence of reciting the Quran. Today inshallah we'll resume with a new hadith, hadith number 993. عن عثمان بن عفان رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. It's a sound hadith. Hadith is collected by Imam Bukhari, may Allah have mercy on him, and many other narrators of the hadith. Uthman ibn Affan, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, said, the best among you is the one who learns the Quran and teaches it to others. So the word khair, which means the best of, or refers to the superiority. Sometimes the superiority is pertaining one quality or another, and sometimes it is mutlaqa, general, absolute superiority. So when we compare a merchant and a multimillionaire, a scientist, a doctor, a handyman, every person excelled in their fields. This is great. But whom does the community benefit from most? Is it the surgeon? Is it the cardiologist? Is it the teacher? Is it the janitor? We need them all. We need them all. And all of that, whoever does whatever they do, studying for 7 years to acquire a medical degree, then 3 years residency, then another 3 years to specialize in whatever field, then for the doctorate degree, it takes years and years to be specialized in a particular field in medicine. And also to excel in any kind of job, it takes a lot of time, learning, then internship, then practice, and so on. So every person is needed, and every job, every task is required, and it benefits the community. And it depends on your intention, as why did you acquire this kind of degree, and why did you take this kind of job. Some people do it merely because I wanted to buy a nice car, live in a nice neighborhood, and marry a beautiful girl. And all of that would require me to have money and good position in the society. You got it. You work hard for it, you get it. Then what about after I die? What happens to this heritage? What happens to this success? It vanishes. Do I benefit anything out of that afterward? Only what was intended to please Allah or anticipating the reward from Allah the Almighty is what benefits the person after their demise. So when you check out all professions, you will find that the profession which benefits people most is the one which guides them to the Creator, is the one which makes people love, know, recognize, and obey their Creator. All of that will be achieved when a person knows the Quran. Knows here doesn't only know how to read, and this is a common misunderstanding. Many Muslim families, their ultimate goal when it comes to the deen, they say that their son or their daughter is practicing Islam, is religiously committed, because they have finished reading the Quran. We even, at the age of 7, we threw an Ameen party. We invited a lot of people and we distributed sweet because my daughter finished reading the Quran, or my son finished reading the Quran, or even memorizing the Quran, because reading, memorizing the Quran, that benefits you as far as earning thawab. What matters most is the understanding, then the implementation. So al-ilm is a very comprehensive word. تعلم القرآن. He learned how to read it. He learned how to recite it with the proper ahkam. He learned its meaning. He learned its interpretation, the tafsir, so that whenever he's teaching students, youngsters, elders, men or women, and they ask, what is the meaning of the word qur'? وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوء. What does it mean? So the man is alim, knowledgeable, is able to pass on the tafsir, the interpretation, and the meaning of what he is reciting to others. Some of the Qurra, brothers and sisters, I recall one of them, one of my colleagues by the name Sheikh Hassan Saleh. He is currently in the United States, in New Jersey, and he joins us for Hajj. Whenever he recites the Quran, it sounds like he is explaining the Quran. And that happens when the person, the reader, the reciter himself, knows the meaning of what he is reciting, knows where to stop, and if he stopped, where to begin from. If he has to resume, or he has to go back for a couple words in order to provide a perfect meaning, his heart is involved in the recitation, not only the tongue. The ahkam, the melodious voice, the understanding, tranquility and khushu'. So when you hear that, you feel like you're attracted to a magnet, because the person is alimun bil Quran. He makes people really love to listen to it, and furthermore understand its meaning. That is ta'allama al-Quran. It isn't only about learning how to read the Quran. This is very limited understanding. وَعَلَّمَهُ. And the knowledge that he has earned, I know many of our students, they obtain an ijazah after another, and they have 10, 12 and 15 different ijazahs. When they know that this sheikh here is visiting, they rush to recite before him so that they can obtain an ijazah, a written document that this person can teach the Quran and his recitation is correct according to Hafs, according to Wash, according to the different qira'at. So they keep obtaining qira'at, but it's only for themselves. They do not share this with others. They keep it for themselves. That too is very limited understanding. But the comprehensive meaning of the hadith, it's a short hadith, but with very great and deep meaning. The best of all of you, the best at large, the absolute best, I said, he can be very beneficial for the community. We appreciate that, and with good intention you will be rewarded. But if everybody in the community is professional in a particular field and we don't have one to teach us the word of Allah, this community is in loss. This community, after they vanish, they will be shocked and surprised with the fact that there is life after death, there is reward, there is punishment, and they didn't know any about that. وَعَلَّمَهُ. A person who have learned the Quran according to the comprehensive meaning of ta'allama, learned its meaning, learned how to recite it correctly, learned how to deduce the ahkam from the various verses of the Quran, learned the abrogation, al-nasikh wal-mansukh, learned the balagha, the eloquence of the Quran. All of that is under the umbrella of ta'allam al-Quran. And this knowledge did not stop at him. He passed it on to others. It doesn't matter whom you're teaching the Quran to. My hobby and what I love most is to teach the children. This is dearer to me than even teaching the adults. What matters is who retains this knowledge and who benefits out of it most. Sometimes the adults are sitting out of respect. They know their heads, whether they know or they don't. This is not the case with the youngsters. They ask questions and they investigate, and this is very good for them and very good for the teacher. He feels that they need to draw knowledge out of him. They investigate, and that is the meaning of wa'allama. You guys know how the Prophet ﷺ said in the Hadith, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Convey from me anything that you've heard from me, anything that you have learned from me, even if it's just a single ayah. Is there any Muslim who doesn't know the 7 ayahs of Surah Al-Fatiha? It consists of 7 verses. But what do you know about them? It is not only knowing how to read them. Do you know the meaning of إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ? And why is it إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ? It is only you whom we worship, not نَعْبُدُكَ, which is a lot easier. So that is the meaning of تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَ. When you come to the greatest companions of the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, those people whom the Quran was revealed in their language, so once they heard it, they comprehended it. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, for example, he says that he doesn't dare to give his opinion in the interpretation or the meaning of an ayah of the Quran or a word, unless if he have heard that from the Messenger of Allah, or if it is explained in another verse in the Quran. So he says, أَيُّ سَمَاءٍ تُظِلُّنِي وَأَيُّ أَرْضٍ تُقِلُّنِي إِنْ أَنَا قُلْتُ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ بَرَأِيهِ. Where can I escape from Allah? Where can I find a heaven to shelter me, or an earth to bear me, if I dare to suggest and to say my opinion concerning an ayah of the book of Allah? Say, I think it means this and that. No. It is not what you think. It's a knowledge called the interpretation of the Quran. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua for Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, the Prophet's cousin. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, he was a teenager at around 13, 14 years old. He was very intelligent. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam makes this beautiful dua for him before he dies. He says, Allahumma faqihhu fi d-din wa'allimhu at-ta'wil. O Allah, make him comprehend his religion, to know what is halal and haram and the various ahkam, fiqh, understanding. وَعَلِّمْهُ التَّأْوِيلِ, and teach him the knowledge of the interpretation of the Quran, the meaning of the Quran. But it was their language. The other day, as I was leaving from the masjid, some elders said, Sheikh, we're having a serious problem. We're having a brother, he has just come from the States, and he is denying the Sunnah. And he says that we only believe in this Quran, we gotta respect the Quran and love the Quran. Don't tell me a hadith or the Prophet said or the companion said. All of that is man-made. So even though I was on a hurry, but I sensed the urge of tackling this matter. So I sat with them for a little bit, and it lasted until the next prayer time, but it was worth it. And I asked him, Uncle, have you prayed with us? He said, yes, and it was Maghrib prayer. I said, MashaAllah, may Allah bless you. And how many rak'ah is Maghrib? He said, 3 rak'ahs. I said, do you find this in the Quran? He said, I don't know, you know better, you're the Sheikh. I said, no, the Quran doesn't say that Maghrib is 3 rak'ahs. It doesn't say Maghrib is at sunset. doesn't say Maghrib is loud prayer, and Isha 4 rak'ahs, and it's a loud prayer. Versus Dhuhr and Asr, it's a silent prayer or secret prayers. It doesn't say the number of rak'ahs for Fajr. It doesn't talk about the 2 rak'ahs before Fajr. So the Quran commands offering the prayer in the morning and in the evening, and He says, the Almighty in Surah An-Nisa, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. Yes, there are ordained times to offer the prayers. Where are those times in the Quran? Where are the number of rak'ahs in the Quran? What to recite? The Quran doesn't say what to say in ruku' and sujood and in standing and the tashahhud and taslim and all of that. Right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said during his life, I don't want to see any of you reclining on his couch, saying that whatever I find in the book of Allah, I accept, I believe in, and I act upon. And if it is not in the book of Allah, then I'm not obliged to follow it. Indeed, I have been given the Quran and similar to it along with it. So he said, you mean that the Quran has an extension? I said, the Sunnah, which explains the Quran, and without it, you will not be a Muslim. You won't be able to understand your deen. So, Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhuma, the Prophet ﷺ died, and he was still a teenager. Some of his colleagues and companions, some of his peers, he asked them, let's go and learn the Quran, learn the meaning of the Quran, and hear the hadith from the companions of Rasulullah. So one of them said to him, Ya Ibn Abbas, do you think that those elders and those great companions will be one day in need for some kids like us? They have all the knowledge from the Messenger of Allah. So they neglected that. While Abdullah ibn Abbas took upon himself the task of fulfilling the dua, the supplication of the Messenger of Allah. It wasn't just mere supplication. The Prophet said, oh Allah, teach him the meaning of the Quran, the interpretation of the Quran, and he slept on that. No. He acted upon that. He started visiting the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and the elders, go to their houses, to their localities, and learn. Teach me what you heard from the Messenger of Allah, because he was young. To the extent that the narrator said, and he himself said that, sometimes the wind will blow. It's at noon. At noon in the peninsula, they know that it's qaylula. It's time where until today, they close their shops. It's extremely hot. People cannot afford to walk in the streets. So they shut down their shops. They go to take a little nap. They stay in the shade of their houses or whatever. He would go to any of them and would wait in front of his house. The wind may blow sand over him while he is sitting or lying down in front of his house. So when the companion is ready to leave for the prayer, and he sees Abdullah ibn Abbas, the Prophet's cousin, Ahl Bayt al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in this condition, he says, Ya ibn Ammi Rasulillah, oh, the Prophet's cousin, you should have told me, I would have come to you. No, this is not the way we seek knowledge. I seek knowledge, I shall actually go to the knowledgeable ones and ask them kindly, politely, out of etiquette, to teach me the knowledge that Allah the Almighty has taught them, has made an effort until one day that Abdullah ibn Abbas has become the reference. The reference. So all the companions would ask Abdullah ibn Abbas, because of what? تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنِ. تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنِ. And Abdullah ibn Abbas loved that all Muslims would know the meaning of the Quran as he learned. He says that I wish every single Muslim would learn all what I know about the Quran. Why? Because knowing and learning the Quran would increase your iman. Makes a big difference, brothers and sisters. A person who read the Quran and understood its meaning, in addition to the melodious voice, it attracted him. He has become possessed with the love of the Quran. He feels that Allah is talking to him, versus a person, and unfortunately, don't take me wrong, I hope that you won't feel upset when I tell you that many of those who put their kids in a hifz school, or in Bismillah party, then Ameen party, and they manage to read the Quran, but they don't understand anything out of the Quran. They don't understand. The kids felt that they were oppressed. Why? Their peers are playing video games. They got the latest Nintendo game and PlayStation game and all of that. And I'm spending hours every day to do this, something that which I don't like, which I don't appreciate. Would that prevent them from straying, from turning away from the deen one day? No, it won't. What prevent them and protect them is knowing the meaning of this, learning and loving to read it, feeling that it is something that I appreciate doing. It is not that I have to do because my parents forced me to do it, or they want me to become a hafiz. Just being a hafiz, it's such an honorable thing, but it doesn't save the person. It doesn't make a person a saint or an angel. Yeah, he may lead the prayer because he's a hafiz, but he doesn't understand it. And what a shame. So al-ilm is a very comprehensive word, brothers and sisters, so that those who think that allama al-Quran, he knows the ahkam and he knows how to recite it and he passes this on to others and he has a halqa where people recite the Quran, this is just one of the components of ta'allama al-Quran. There is no way that one can pass on knowledge to others unless if he himself knows it. So the khairiyah or the superiority is not only in this life, nor only in the hereafter, rather in both and in the barzakh. For instance, I'm saying khayrukum, the best of all of you, the best of the doctors, the best of the engineers, the best of the janitors, the best of men and women, the best of everything, the person who knows the Quran. He learns the Quran and shares this knowledge with others, because this is a continuous charity for him. Even if he dies, he still earns thawab and reward as a result of that, because he passed on this knowledge to others, and perhaps those people will teach it to others, and so on. The continuous chain of the narrators. The Prophet ﷺ said, يَأُمُّ الْقَوْمَ أَقْرَأُهُمْ لِكِتَابِ اللَّهِ. What does it mean? A person who should lead the prayer is a person who knows more Quran. So more Quran is given the position of the leadership. In the Muslim army, you may find a general, he doesn't know much of the Quran. So we call the adhan, he's coming to pray. And we have an infantry, we have a regular soldier, but he knows more Quran. So he's giving the presidency, lead the prayer. So after the prayer, the general would give everybody commands, and they would say, yes sir, and attention. But in the prayer, this regular soldier says, Allahu Akbar. Then everybody, colonels, generals, lieutenants, first lieutenants, everybody would join him, after him. إِنَّمَا جُعِلَ الْإِمَامُ لِيُؤْتَمَّ بِهِ. When a tribe accepted Islam, the Prophet ﷺ said, go and let the person who knows more Quran lead the prayer. Those guys were elders, chieftains. There was a kid at the age of 7, brothers and sisters. He liked the Quran before they accepted Islam, and he used to memorize some parts of it. So when they came willingly and they accepted Islam, they found that this kid is the one who knows more Quran than anybody else. So he was appointed with the consent of the Prophet ﷺ to lead those guys in the prayer. In the barzakh, in the hereafter, I'm going inshallah to show you some examples of how the Quran gives its people superiority in the barzakh, in life after death and before resurrection, and after resurrection as well. But after we take a short break, please stay tuned.
ألا يتدبرون القرآن.
One day the Prophet ﷺ came out to the companions radiallahu anhum, and he said to them, don't you bear witness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one worthy of worship and he has no partners? Don't you bear witness that I'm the messenger of Allah? Don't you bear witness that the Quran is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So the companions radiallahu anhum, they said, yes, O Prophet of Allah. Then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, فَأَبْشِرُوا, have the glad tidings, the great news as a result of this. Because the Quran has two ends to it. One end with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and one end in your hands. Then he said to them alayhi salatu wasalam, فَتَمَسَّكُوا بِهِ, hold fast to it, because you would never be led astray and you would never be perished if you're holding fast to the book of Allah. Because of that, join us every week in Quran in depth, where we recite and reflect and ponder over the verses of the Quran. We go in depth into the verses, following the ways of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions radiallahu anhum. When they used to take the verses, one set of verses after another, they would recite it, they would reflect upon the meanings of it, and they would act according to it, and then they would go to the next set of verses. Join us every week in Quran in depth, so that we would recite and reflect and learn more about the book of Allah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our life and to make us among those who follow the Quran and the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
We are on air again. Glad tidings to Hadith TV viewers worldwide for the resumption of live broadcasting on NowSat. We are now broadcasting on the advanced DVB S2 system. Tune in using our new frequency, 12188 horizontal on NowSat. Please note, you will need to have a modern HD receiver in order to tune in. Enjoy your favorite edutainment programs with crystal clear resolution. Hadith TV, a light in every home.
Not be Jesus because it's contradicted by the New Testament, which
Absolutely.
still
Exactly.
states clearly
Yeah.
that
I was only sent for the lost sheep
The
of
house of
Israel.
Israel.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like me and Salam growing up in a Christian environment and being exposed to this is so shocking. You know?
Jewish faith and the Christian faith, both of them were expecting the last prophet, and
They're all mixing,
Yeah.
and they're all friendly together. It really impresses them. It really shocks them sometimes.
Listen,
That's the way. That's the original.
Muhammad, that's the original.
That's the original.
This is 4 years
Arabic
ago.
meaning
This
is
was a
glorious.
Can you read it?
You took a screenshot.
Muhammad,
Screenshot.
last and most important of the prophets. Arabic meaning is glorious or magnificent.
رسول الله حبيب الله رسول الله حبيب الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. Before we resume, our phone numbers beginning with the area code are 002, then 0238555131. Alternatively, area code 002, then 010054699323. And the WhatsApp number is area code 001, then 347806025. Well, brothers and sisters, we're talking about how the absolute superiority before Allah, in the sight of Allah, people whom Allah loves most are those who learn the Quran and teach it to others. And we said the absolute superiority because in this dunya, superiority is for those who obtain this quality. They have learned the Quran and mashallah, they pass it on to others. They teach tafsir, they teach the recitation of the Quran, the ahkam of tajweed, or whatever is relating to the science of the Quran. And there are many, many sciences, many subjects. We quoted the hadith of Amr ibn Salama. It's a sound hadith collected by Imam Bukhari. When his people accepted Islam and he was only 7, but he was the person who knows more Quran. Rasulullah ﷺ taught them how to pray and said, لِيَأُمُّكُمْ أَكْثَرُكُمْ قِرَاءَةً لِلْقُرْآنِ. Let the person who knows more Quran lead the prayer. They looked and it was this kid, 7 years old, Amr ibn Salama. But he knows more. So they taught him how to pray, to cover his aura, and they let him lead the prayer. Quran gave him superiority. During the Battle of Uhud, as you know, that 70 of the companions were martyred. In addition to the Sahaba were fatigued, were worn out, many of whom were injured. The Prophet ﷺ bled and he lost his front teeth and he was injured badly. So now, in the aftermath, they came to bury the Shuhada. They weren't able to dig graves for all of them. They consulted the Prophet ﷺ and he approved burying 2 or more, 2 and 3 in the same grave. And whenever they dig a grave and they're ready to bury 2 or 3, he would say, أيهم أكثر أخذا للقرآن? Which one of them knew more Quran? Which one of them have memorized more Quran? And they say, this Sahabi. So he will bury him first. Then the second and the third. So even this is the life of the barzakh, between life in this dunya and resurrection in the hereafter. Even in the grave, the superiority is for a person who knows more Quran. What about in the hereafter? This is very obvious. In the sound hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, on the day of resurrection, it will be said, لِقَارِئِ الْقُرْآنِ, to the person who have memorized the Quran, or some parts of the Quran. اقرأ وارتقِ ورتل. Go ahead and recite in the hereafter. In Jannah, he will be asked by Allah, go ahead and recite as you used to recite in the life of this dunya. So he would recite. Then Allah will tell him that because your rank, your dwelling place will be in accordance with the last ayah that you've known or you have memorized. There is a difference of opinion among the scholars. Sheikh Albani, may Allah bless on him, is of the view that the hadith is referring to the one who have memorized more Quran because he's reciting fluently by heart. Go ahead and recite. You've memorized Al-Baqarah, Al-Imran, Al-Nisa. How many ayahs? Each ayah will elevate you into a higher level, into a higher rank. Until you're done, this is how much you've memorized. That would be your rank in paradise. On the floor, 300 or 6,000, depending on how many ayahs you memorized of the Quran. So people will be treated in the hereafter also in accordance with how much Quran did they know. Before I take this call, I would like to bring to your attention, it isn't only about the memorization, by the way. Assalamu alaikum. Brother Muhammad from Germany. Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad.
Yeah, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ahlan wa sahlan, brother. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, alhamdulillah. Just want to say, inshallah, thanks, jazakallah khair for the good you're doing for the sake of God. May Allah give you reward endless, inshallah.
Ameen. Thank you so much. May Allah bless you and your family, akhi.
Yeah, may Allah make us among the Quran, inshallah.
Ameen. Thank you. You don't have any question, do you?
Yeah, my question was just the same as I asked you last time. Is it okay to recite the following dua when I'm praying for the prayer in sajda? اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ
Yes.
منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم عليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
The answer.
When I'm praying fard and sunnah, can I read this dua in sajda?
Okay. The answer is yes. You can make any dua in your sujood, whether it is fard or sunnah. Okay? Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't specify. And he said, the closest any servant will get to Allah is while he or she is prostrating themselves before him. So he said, in this condition, while you are the closest to Allah, take advantage of that and increase making dua. Did he specify fard or sunnah? He didn't. As a matter of fact, it will be more worthy in the fard prayer, because that is the dearest to Allah, to offer what Allah has ordained. Barakallahu feekum. I was talking about being concerned about memorizing the Quran. In the United States, and when we opened one school and another, I felt the urge of making sure that the youth would love the Quran. Loving the Quran cannot be attained by simply saying, well, Quran is so great, you need to memorize it and you will enter paradise. This is not appealing to the youth nowadays. They have a lot of fun and a lot of activities. But I can assure you, when we know the meaning and we dive in depth in the meaning of the ayat, you have this kind of magnet attraction. It is attracting you to learn more and more. It makes sense. Most of Muslims do not know Arabic, do not speak Arabic. So I claim, brothers and sisters, there is a huge barrier. And we approach the Quran based on the fact that we're Muslims, so we should love the Quran. There is a major difference between us, those who were born in Islam, and those who made an effort, whether they have searched and searched and searched, then Allah guided them to Islam, or it was due to an accident which they ended up reading the Quran, reading about the Quran, and they accepted Islam. But it wasn't simply like, okay, because my husband is a Muslim, so I want to become Muslim to make him happy. For how long are you going to remain Muslim or Muslim and recite the Quran and know the meaning of the Quran and memorize the Quran? There must be a bigger motive. This is it. This is the guidance. This is the light which lit my life. I finally found the truth. And I finally found the ultimate guidance in this book. This is what I heard by my own ears from many of my students, some of whom were atheists, deists, or some of whom were Christians or Jews. I just spoke to one of our sisters in Jerusalem. She belonged to a Jewish family, and she's not an Arab. She's an Israeli. And she accepted Islam by the grace of Allah. And by the way, she have adopted the name Huda. So Sister Huda have accepted Islam. And when a person like her, or we have another sister, she was my student at the university from Tel Aviv. She have accepted Islam, and her name is Aya. She have accepted Islam willingly, and she challenged the whole world, the family, the society, the prejudice of the Zionist community, and this is a big challenge. It is not so much fun like you're going for a field trip or experimenting something new. It is simply facing and confronting the whole society, the media, your family members, the system. Why? Conviction. Something have made them convinced that this is the ultimate truth. It is the Quran, brothers and sisters, which we as Muslims need to explore. We need to treat the Quran differently. Take one surah at a time. Study it, understand its meaning. Take the stories of the prophets. 25 messengers and prophets were mentioned in the Quran. Learn their stories. The ultimate truth about Prophet Moses, Abraham, Jesus, Zachariah, John, and all the prophets. Learn the concept of the true monotheism from the pure essence from the Quran. Not just recite the Quran while there is a barrier. Yes, I have seen musicians came to me in New York City when I was playing the Quran. I have a neighbor who is a musician, okay? He's in the music business. And once he visited me and I had the Quran was played by one of the reciters. You know what he said? He said, Muhammad, I love your music. I love your music. So he likes the melodious sound. It sounds like music for him. It attracted him. I know people who are singers, famous singers, and they accepted Islam because of the Quran alone, without talking to a single Muslim, without having Muslim neighbors. And then they quit music, they quit singing, and they just lived with the Quran. It was very satisfactory for them. Why don't we take advantage of these turning points in the lives of many people because of the Quran and explore it as Muslims? Those who were born in Islam and took it for granted. It's time to explore the Quran. It's time to understand the meaning of خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. I would love for my children to be, I would love for one of them to be a cardiologist, and the second maybe a neurosurgeon, and the third, I like to have a dentist. Yeah, definitely, I would love for one of my kids to be a dentist. Then whatever you decide afterward. I have many kids, mashallah. But most certainly the priority for me, whether you're a cardiologist, whether you're a neurosurgeon or a dentist or a lawyer, that how much you know from the Quran. Some of my kids, by the grace of Allah, have finished memorizing the whole Quran at the age of 12 and 13. But this is not my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal should be, how much do they know about it? How much do they understand out of it? How much Quran actually affected their behavior in life? It makes me the happiest individual on earth whenever we're dining together and there is any subject that we're discussing, then one of them brings a reference from the Quran, and it falls on my heart like peace of mind, comfort for my eyes. It makes my day. I feel like that is the greatest reward in life. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides for me to die right now, this is what makes me feel comfortable. I'm talking about everyone, of course, not just one person or myself or another. That is the thing, besides being a doctor, besides being a lawyer, besides being a teacher, besides being a painter and an artist, that how much do you know of the Quran? خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. I can't have enough or believe that what I've talked about this hadith is sufficient or enough. It is not enough. It cannot be enough, especially when you know that the word khayr is the absolute superiority. Okay? When the Prophet ﷺ said the best husband is the one who's best to his wife, or the one who does this in a particular field, but the khayrukum here is absolutely general. For all of you, the best of all of you is the one who learns the Quran and teaches it to others. May Allah make us among them. Next hadith, brothers and sisters, and next hadith is agreed upon its authenticity. Hadith number 994, and I want to assure you once again, by the grace of Allah, Imam Nawawi, Yahya ibn Sharaf al-Nawawi, may Allah have mercy on him, was blessed, was granted a great deal of wisdom. Look at the order of putting the ahadith, one after another. It's like the beads. You know, one thing leads to another. So after learning that the superiority is for the one who learns the Quran and teaches to others, look at the following hadith and you will figure out what I mean. The following hadith narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha. عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الذي يقرأ القرآن وهو ماهر به مع السفرة الكرام البررة والذي يقرأ القرآن ويتتعتع فيه وهو عليه شاق له أجران. متفق عليه, agreed upon its authenticity. In this hadith, the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, said, the one who is proficient in the recitation of the Quran will be with the honorable and obedient scribes, al-malaika, the angels, and the one who recites the Quran and finds it difficult to recite, doing his best to recite it in the best possible way, will have a double reward. Allahu Akbar. Yani no one is left behind. No one is ignored, neglected. No, everyone. Once you tackle this glorious book, once you tackle the Quran, you're blessed. You know, one ayah, you're blessed. 10 ayah, you're blessed 10 times more. You're 100 ayah, then 100 times more you're blessed, and so on. الماهر بالقرآن. ماهر يعني proficient, clever. He's perfect. Whenever he recites the Quran, he doesn't make mistakes. He knows the ahkam. He knows the characteristics of the letters. He knows the articulation points. He doesn't confuse the dad with the dal, the dad with the dha. He doesn't. He is native, not necessarily because he's native. You know, we have a program. It's aired every Thursday. It's called Correct Recitation. Last episode, I have a qari from Afghanistan. He made me the happiest person. He made my day. He's from Afghanistan. He's a non-Arab, but he's reciting so beautifully with the ahkam like he's born Arab. I can tell that his tutor, his teacher must be a native Arabic. What matters is whom do you hear from. You know, when Egyptians learn English, they will learn English from Egyptians, and they would continue to make the same errors and speak English with the same accent, Egyptian accent. Indian, when they learn English from Indian people, they would maintain the same Indian accent. Like that, because it is your ears. But you know what? Give me your son, 7, 8, 9, and up to maybe 10. You throw him in a school, in a public school in the States. For 1 year, that child doesn't know a single English word. And now he's studying science and math and English and all of that. After 1 year, he speaks English like his teacher. He speaks English better than his dad, who is a professor or a doctor. Why? Because he learned from a native speaker without accent. Similarly, what matters most for being proficient in the recitation of the Quran is the tutor, the teacher, the sheikh, the qari. He knows how to recite the Quran properly, and he's got an ijazah, a certificate to teach it to others. By the way, here the scholars such as Imam Nawawi and others, they said about al-mahiru bil-Quran, it refers to the person who has memorized the Quran. So when you say, Ya Shaykh Abdul Rahman, recite this ayah from Surah Al-Isra. So it's like an open mushaf in front of him. He recites non-stop. He is proficient. He mastered the memorization of the Quran. Mahir bil-Quran. When it comes to a person like that, and alhamdulillah, he's a person who is God-fearing, he's an obedient servant to Allah, this person is simply as good as angels. Safara, kiram, barara. This is his rank. In order to achieve that, you, me, and every person and our children would have to struggle to learn. While struggling to learn, it takes time. And sometimes it is very problematic, especially for non-Arab. Oh, don't worry about it. The compensation is in proportion with the effort that you're making. So the one who stutters while reciting the Quran and he's learning, Allah the Almighty will give him double the reward of a person who recites it fluently. So what is the reward for a person who recites it fluently? Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said, 10 good deeds for each letter. So you recite 1 page in 3 minutes. Why? Because you're fluent. إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات كانت لهم جنات الفردوس نزلا خالدين فيها لا يبغون عنها حولا. And you go on and on and on and on. MashaAllah. Read. It's your turn. إن الذين آمنوا. And you're taking your time. It is taking double and triple the time of a mahir. So while you're struggling, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compensates you for the effort you're making. So there is a reward for mere reciting and reading. And there is another word, so it's double word for what? For the effort you're making, for the challenge that you're going through. The Almighty Allah is the most generous, and He is inviting us to the greatest feast. It is the feast of the Quran. Learning how to read it, how to recite it, understand it, ponder over it, and share it with others. This is the zakah of the Quran. The zakah of knowledge is to share it with others, brothers and sisters. May Allah guide us and all of us to His best and make us among the people of the Quran, whom Allah chooses exclusively to be His people, Ahlul Quran, هم أهل الله وخاصته. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم, and until next time, السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
حبيب الله رسول الله حبيب الله Allah our God is the greatest, the one and only glory to Him. He wanted humans to be the best and give His best religion to them. Allah our God is the greatest, the one and only glory to Him. He wanted humans to be the best and give His best religion to them.
So why did they ignore that? Forgetting all about it in paradise, worshipping cows, fire and stones, selling the best with the cheapest price.
So why did they ignore that? Forgetting all about hell and paradise, worshipping cows, fire and stones, selling their best with the cheapest price.